Journeys. We're thinking about journeys a lot this weekend. Really important. And I've been reading a fascinating book about Icelandic sagas. And one of the fascinating things that I'm discovering about the Icelanders was that when they came together first as a nation, mostly the Danes coming over and settling in Iceland, they needed to form their identity as a nation because they were trying to be independent of Denmark, be their own country, but they needed to somehow form their own identity. And so they would come together every year for something called I think it's pronounced the Althing. The Althing, would that be right? I've no idea. It's basically... There's no one from Iceland, it doesn't matter. And this would be a sort of, they'd journey for miles and they'd come together and they'd put up tents and little settlements and things. They'd just have a big kind of, like messy church conference, really. They'd recite their laws, they would tell their stories. And out of these all things, the sagas came, and the great poets wrote down the sagas. We've got a messy church saga, which we're going to hear in 3 parts. That's exciting, isn't it? So if I could invite our first couple of bards, Bard Paul and Bard Miriam, they're going to read us the first chapter of the messy saga. Here we go.
Once upon a time, there was a king whose courtiers loved to spend time with him at great banquets. The food was delicious and served on beautiful silver platters. The manners were perfect. The rituals were beautiful. There were toasts, there were set songs, there were lovely in-jokes and quirky habits, and that made everyone feel they belonged at the king's table. But the king was sad when some of the court started making excuses not to come to the banquets. They said, it's just not really our thing. The toasts, the songs, the rituals, they don't mean anything to us. It's lovely that the people like them, but they're not just for us. We want to eat with you, but not that way. And one by one, they started to drift away from the court, wishing they could spend time with the king, but just not seeing how. The king was distressed and asked the courtiers in the dining room to do something. But this is the best way to eat, they said. We'll just keep doing the same thing and they'll come back to our banquets, just you see. Your banquets? Asked the king quietly, and he walked sadly across the courtyard.
You look hungry, your highness, said a scullery maid, bobbing a little curtsy. Would you care to eat in the kitchen with us? So the king came into the kitchen where the castle staff, from the oldest butler to the youngest kennel maid, were just sitting down to a meal at the old, battered kitchen table. Perhaps it was fish fingers. The king, he sat down and he joined in. They ate, they talked and they laughed and listened and disagreed and made up. The king spoke at last. I want you to do something for me. Invite as many people as you can to this table. He looked around and pointed at the scullery maid who was washing up the pots. You make a start and I'll choose some wonderful people to join you on your quest. You'll need mystical objects to help you. He gave her a magic sack of food that would never go empty. He gave her not a sword, but an enchanted sponge on a stick, because there were plenty of knights around to fight people, but not many to do the washing up. But he also gave her a suit of armour. "Will there be dragons?" asked the scullery maid anxiously. "No," said the king. "It just looks really cool." "And have a horse."
So off rode the scullery maid, shouting out to anyone she passed, "Come and eat at the king's kitchen table."
The nice thing about the Icelandic sagas are that they're actually about real people. They're not fairy tales, they're not mythology, they're about real people. And I've been thinking about heroes in the Messy Church story. And I think the first thing to say, really, in our saga is that the heroes are ungrammatically you. That you are the heroes of this story. You're the ones who make Messy Church happen, who've listened to the call of the king, who have taken the risk, probably in the teeth of opposition, probably not an easy ride for any of us on this. And you've made it happen in the town, the village, the city, the countryside, where you are. So hear that, please hear that this weekend. When we're talking heroes, the heroes of this story include you and the person sitting to your left and the person sitting to your right and the ones behind you and the ones in front of you. All of us are part of this story. And it would be quite interesting to see our history together. And so we've got some dates coming up now. And could you think for a moment, what was the year when you first got involved in any way with Messy Church? And it might be the year when you went, "Messy Church, that's a load of rubbish, we're doing that over my dead body." It can be whenever you like, but have you got that year in your head? Yeah? What year did you first get involved? Okay. Now, when you see that year pop up on the screen, could you just get to your feet and stay on your feet? Is that all right? Okay. Are you ready? See if this works, Robin. Here we go. 2004. Well done, you can sit yourselves down. Really exciting. Some people not involved until this year. Marvellous. I'm going to run through the story of Messy Church now from 2004 very briefly. A lot of you know it, but I wanted to tell it from the point of view of the heroes, and that includes heroines, of course, who've been involved from the various stages of Messy Church. So, back in 2004, that was when a small group of us at St Wilfrid's in Cow Plain decided that we really were not reaching enough families in our parish, and we'd wrestled with this idea for a long time of how do we actually nurture children spiritually, coming to the conclusion that actually the best way was in an intergenerational context with adults and children teenagers, toddlers, all together, worshipping God together, being church together. And I suppose one of the first heroes was Richard Fisher. Where's Richard? Oh, he's standing already. There he is, over by the... Give us a wave, Richard. And because in 2008, Richard, who's my boss, said, "Oh, I think God might be in this. More and more of your time is being taken up with Messy Church. Let's take a risk. Let's put it out there. Let's see what happens if we take you off all the work you're doing at the moment and put you on Messy Church full time." Now, I don't know of many bosses who would say, "Here, go with this. We think God is in this." So Richard is one of my first heroes. Someone who came, don't applaud him too much, not too much. And somebody who was instrumental from the start and has been through to the present day in all sorts of supportive ways is Anne Person. Anne, where are you? Anne, just stand up and give us a wave, Anne, because you definitely need a round of applause. And Anne in herself and representing an awful lot of other people, one of the trustees of BRF at the time, encouraged Richard in this and encouraged me, and is still a massive encouragement to our team in all that we do, and the hours that Anne has spent praying for us, as well as all the other forms of support she gives us, have been phenomenal. So Anne, you are definitely one of our heroes, and it's lovely you're here with Sharon today from the village where you run your Messy Church. Brilliant, brilliant. I was kind of going out and about meeting Messy Church leaders and kindred spirits, and it wasn't long before I was having coffee with Caris Lambert. Where's Caris? Stand up, Caris. And there we go. And I said, I think we need some kind of a volunteer network to kind of make this happen locally. Do you fancy being a regional coordinator? And Caris said yes. And so the regional coordinator network was born. So that was a long time ago, really, now, Caris, wasn't it? So that's great. To 2010. It really was all getting a bit much, and I needed somebody to help actually on the team. And Richard and I talked about it, and I said, I really need somebody who's prepared to call a spade, who will disagree with me and not be fazed by anything, who has a passion for Messy Church, a passion, more importantly, for God, and can really take these things forward and drive this alongside me. I need someone really special. Who do you want? Said Richard. I said, I want Jane Ledbetter from Liverpool, but she's really happy in her job and I don't think she'll leave. And we asked her, and she said yes. Jane, here we go. Jane, stand up, Whitney, stand up. Wonderful. And little did we know that in sort of 2011, this story was moving out, this saga was moving out in all sorts of different places and different ways. And I'm going to miss people out because there was so much that God was doing around this time. There was a version of Messy Church based around the needs of older people starting up in 2011 on Jersey. And where's Katie? Katie in Bill Norman. Katie, yeah, just give us a wave, Katie. Yay. And so Katie was working with her Methodist church there to take Messy Church in a different direction. Messy Vintage was born. Over in Canada, Nancy, is Nancy here yet? Nancy, yes, Nancy, welcome. Nancy and Andy and Sue Kalpfleisch, where are they? Yes, oh, Canada's all at the back, hello. We're building a network there. Over in Australia, Chris Barnett was one of our, stand up Chris, stop being deferential. Yes, wonderful. We're starting to grow a network there, and Australia, give us a wave, because where are the rest of you? See, it just grows and grows, amazing. In New Zealand, Debbie Smith, where's Debbie? Oh, she's Sue-Ann. Debbie was there, growing a network there. And where are the other New Zealanders? Yep, there they are. Yeah, excellent, marvellous. Sweden, Ole was, where's Ole? Hey! He was one of the very early people in Sweden. Swedes, give us a wave. Yes, fabulous. And in Denmark, Karen and various other members of the Danish Sunday school movement were taking it. Where's Karen Markussen? There you are, Karen, hurrah! And others were picking it up. In the Netherlands, Nelleke was starting Kliederkerk. Where's basically this is Holland for the fabulous. And in South Africa. So a long, long way away, but Jean Pienaar and Calvin Franz, where are they? See how deferential. These Messy Church people are so meek and humble. Stand up, look. Hey, that's better. Hey, wonderful. Taking it over there. And people like Claire Sanchez-Schutt from the Adventist Church were taking it all over. Most of the world, as far as I can tell, but I'm told it's only sort of Europe, but I don't quite believe that. And it even got as far, of course, around that time as the Isle of Man. Where's Nancy Clegg? Yes, Nancy, well done. Excellent. And by 2012, it was getting a bit ridiculous. Jane and I needed more help. And we also found that it was getting, that there was so much quantity that we weren't able to keep adding to the quality. And we didn't have time to reflect on things. So we thought, what can we do? How can we add quality to this and really think about what God's doing and act on that, not just keep churning things out? And BRF made it possible for possibly the greatest reflector in our world to come and join us on our team from elsewhere in BRF, and Martin Payne came on board. So the movement grew, and it started looking like being more than a flash in the pan, and we realised that actually if it was going to carry on growing, things like social media had to happen. And the trouble was that Twitter and Instagram kind of brought me out in a cold sweat, and Jane learnt how to do it, but it was so much to keep on top of, and so we had the brainwave of saying, let's have interns, because interns are young and they will know how to do these things from their cradles. And so James Pegg came on board, and soon after that Miriam joined us, who you've already met. Sadly going into training to be a vicar in the Church of England, but never mind. And other wonderful people came on board. Dave Gregory, where's Dr. Dave? Dave in the middle there, headed up our Messy Church Does Science project. Really fascinating stuff. In the USA, things started taking off, and Roberta and Lynn brought a lot of things together. Where are Roberta and Lynn? Hey, there they are. And the rest of the Americans, there they are. Oh, fabulous. Welcome, welcome. And very recently, the enormous country of Germany, with so many churches and so many denominations and so many regions and so many complicated long words, kind of got their act together, and with Reinhold and the Germans, give us a wave, Reinhold, give us a wave, Germans. Fabulous. They very recently brought all that together and created a Messy Church for Germany, a Kirche Kunterbund, which is just growing so quickly. If you want to hear a really exciting mustard seed story of God at work, talk to the Germans, because I can't believe what's happening over there. Everyone else who I haven't mentioned, I really apologise because you are just as important, but I couldn't mention 200 people. But really exciting, so many people, so many heroes. So where have we come from? We've come from a lot of people listening to God and joining in with what God's doing. And I brought a piece of our history from my garage, where it's been sitting for 3 years. And this is a part of our history from this very room, because back in 2016, a lot of you will remember, we did a Holy Communion session. And as part of that session, we built a cross. We built a table as well, but my husband refused to let me keep the table at home. So we made the cross and used that in our communion service there. And when we're thinking about where we've come from, who are we? What is our identity? We go back way beyond any of us. We go way back beyond Cowplain's bright idea. We go way back to the cross and that love of Jesus that made it possible for anybody to come into the kingdom of heaven. That love that was poured out, that broke down all the barriers, that took away anything that stops people coming close to God and made it possible for people like you and me to be part of God's work in the kingdom. So where have we come from? We've come from God. That love that's held us from before we were even born, and that stream of love that's creative, that's hospitable, that's celebratory, that's so much of what Messy Church is all about, pouring down the centuries. And we're part of that stream today. So really exciting times. I'll leave that there in the centre. Excellent. So that's where we've come from. And the saga goes on. Have we got our second set of saga readers? Where are our saga bards? Jenny and Maddie.
The scullery maid galloped off on her horse, feeling a bit of a Burke in her suit of armour. She cooked up meals from the magic sack that never grew empty, just to show people what the king's banquets were like. She found her washing up skills were really useful, and people loved it. The king called his friends from different places and sent them magic sacks too. They instantly climbed on their horses and galloped off, shouting the invitation to as many people as they could and cooking meals left, right, and centre. Some took the invitation around a region or even a whole country.
Some found they were poets and composed new stories and songs. Some found they were prophets and reminded the others where they had come from and where they were going. Some brought gifts of money to help feed the horses. Some brought skills to share the invitation in new and exciting ways. Some had the ear of powerful people. But all of them, miraculously, whether they wanted it or not, received the enchanted sponge on a stick, the gift of washing up.
So where are we now? We've done where we've come from, where we are now. What does it look like at the moment? There's one word which I hear a lot from Messy Church leaders, and I just want, at the start of this conference, I just want to mention it now so that we can admonish each other in love throughout the rest of the conference. And that word is just. Because what I hear everywhere I go is, oh, I'm just a Messy Church leader. I'm just an ordinary person in my church. I just do the cooking. I just prepare activities. You know, I just prepare pasta for 350 people. This word just really is it seems lovely because Messy Church people are in general really, really humble and lovely to work with, as we've already seen in the unwillingness of people to stand up and be clapped. But I think when we hear it in each other, let's challenge each other. And if somebody says to you, oh, I'm just a vicar of a little tiny church, or I'm just a Messy Church leader in a tiny church in a village somewhere, you won't have heard of it. Just say to them, no, you are not just that person. You are that person. There's no just about it. We are each doing an amazing job. So let's cut out the just. And think about the group of people, very briefly, who started Messy Church back in 2004 and can't be with us today, sadly, but they did realise that it's their 15th birthday at their first Messy Church. And Cal Plain have sent us this amazing thing. Jane, could you come and hold it for us? It's very light, very light. There we go. Ooh, there we go. There you go, hold it up at the top and let it dangle. Are you tall enough? Should I have got Barry to do this? There we go. This is a happy 15th birthday card, banner from Cal Plain to wish us all the best. So do come and have a look at it later on, because you'll probably find your country featured on one of the balloons there. So just think what it would have been like if that group of people had said, oh, we're just a little church in the suburbs. It's not worth us trying to change anything. Let's just let this church dwindle and die. So there's an encouragement to us of what you can do when you take the just out of your sentences. Thank you, Jane. Ellie's going to read out the email that was sent while the silent film plays. So Robin, take it away for the film, and Ellie.
Baldwin writes, wishing you well for the conference this weekend. Would you be interested in honouring, on our behalf, a special woman who is attending the Messy Church Conference, Mary Addison from New Zealand? St Paul's Church, Putaruru, is a small town located 2 hours' drive south of Auckland, New Zealand. A few years ago, Mary Addison prayed specifically for 7 children to turn up at their church so she could start a children's ministry. Next, she heard about Messy Church, so took 3 parishioners with her to hear Lucy Moore speak at a seminar when she was in New Zealand. A new Messy Church was born. Today, that Messy Church is about to celebrate its 5th birthday in a few weeks' time. Around 75 to 125 people attend St Paul's Messy Church, which is run on a Saturday evening every 6 weeks. The majority of those attending are either mentally challenged, physically challenged, financially challenged, or known as at risk. Several families actually live full-time in a camping ground. Mary's heart for these families has grown to now include knowing their needs, giving support, assisting with legal matters, cooking classes, making veggie gardens, and putting gifts under their Christmas trees, gifts which many of these trees lack. Mary's heart and work has resulted in financial donations somehow appearing just when it's needed, often from anonymous givers, local town service groups, and other churches who might see or hear of the work she does with Messy Church in Putaruru. Mary never seeks thanks for her work, so on behalf of her Messy Church support team, we have made a short movie to share with you all of the love and enthusiasm happening at our Messy Church. We would totally love it if you could honour our Mary on our behalf, as she isn't just a leader and founder of Messy Church. She is full of love of Messy Church and bringing Jesus to the hearts of many, whom the world will call the last, the lost, and the least. I went with Mary to a seminar last year and realised then and there that our Messy Church had exactly the essence of what Lucy had visions for. We have moved from being a ministry to being a congregation. We thank Lucy and team for your visions and the huge backbone of supportive ideas and resources. Messy Church means so much to many in our small town now.
Wonderful. So Mary, where's Mary? Thumbs up to you. I think what we're trying to do at the moment is something around the cross. It's something about reimagining what church can be and saying, this has been around now for 15 years, this Messy Church thing. We've kind of proved that it's working, that it's here to stay. And can church look different? Can church move and be flexible and be a little bit different from how it is, not dissing the old at all, not knocking what's gone on in the past, but building on that, being flexible for the future, being a church for everybody, for the people in that video who are described as the last, the least and the lost, the people who find it difficult to access church as it goes on in many normal churches. So Messy Church, can this be something that God uses for our present day to bring more and more people to know this love that was poured out for us all on the cross, and become familiar with that and realise that love that can change lives and change communities and change the world? Are we part of a movement of God to do that? So that's where we are at the moment, reimagining church. And after breakfast, what we're going to we are helping to change church. So just spend a moment, just a few seconds, thanking God for the privilege of being called on that journey with him. Just close your eyes and have a moment's pause. So, where are we going? We've looked at where we've come from, where we are, and where are we going? Okay, what does the future hold? What's our calling at this point in history, at this place, where we've come from, where we are now? And I want to tell you a little story about one of the most surreal moments of my life so far, which happened in February. It's February this year. And the Messy Church USA board have a retreat in Los Angeles every year, I think, and they very kindly invited me to come on it. And although this is kind of a bit jet-setty for me, I was delighted to go and cheer them on, and we had a fabulous weekend of a small group of us meeting in an Airbnb. We talked, we prayed, we listened to each other, we argued, we thought about the future, we planned, we threw out those plans, we made more plans, we dreamed dreams, and I don't think we quite saw visions, but it wasn't far off. And we were friends together, eating together, living together, just kind of seeking God together. And I got on my plane and I went to Gatwick, and I got off the plane, got on a train and went straight into the Church of England General Synod. Of which I am a member. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my church. I love the Church of England like I love members of my family. But there was something about going from that living, vibrant, organic, flexible, relational meeting with friends that was small, that was light-footed, that could go anywhere, and then going into a meeting of 400 people where we spent 2 hours debating what the agenda was going to be. Not even deciding anything about mission or vestment. Not even vestments, but what the agenda was going to hold. And that juxtaposition combined with jet lag just said to me, what do I want to be part of? And I want to be part of the Church of England. I really want that. But what I long for is for that vibrancy, that life, that movement, that light-heartedness that I experienced with my lovely friends in America, to come into the church here and to bring it new life, to let it come to life, to not in competition with each other, but working together. And I think that's what Messy Church can do in all our different denominations. It's not about competing. It's not about saying, chuck out the rest, let's just do Messy Church, because we would all go insane, frankly. It's about saying, can Messy Church bless the church so that the church can do what church does best, right, which is bless the world and grow Christ in each other. So that was where and it made me start thinking, What are we not going to do? And I'm going to read this because I sort of found myself writing a bit of a rant. So forgive. But here we go. What we're not going to be and then what we are going to be. And this is my purely personal prejudiced view of this. Let me say what Messy Church Future is not going to be. We're not going to get so caught up in our internal politics that we lose sight of our love for families. Okay. You can tell it's not the Brits shouting that. We're not going to fall out. We are not going to schism. We are not going to compete. We're not going to legislate, and we're not going to homogenise. We are not going to exclude. And I say that with lots of trepidation because there are situations where we have to say no. But let me say that when we do, it's from the point of view of love of God and love of people. I can talk more about that later, if you want. No, don't even ask me. We are not going to own buildings. We will never put the way it's always been above the way it needs to be now. We will never be the experts. Never. We will not expect the next generation to want to do things the way we did them. We will not shut doors. We will not ask people to leave the table when they shock us. We will not prize Messy Church above Christ and his kingdom. When we are misunderstood and patronised, we will never give up. We will never be risk-free, predictable, or controlled. We will never, ever be tidy. So what are we going to do? I've got to read this as well because I just couldn't learn it, sorry. We are going to bust a gut to stay friends with each other and to belong to each other, even when we disagree, especially when we disagree. We will take seriously the fact that we are a family under Christ, and we will find a way through our differences together. We will think the best of each other. We will listen to each other. We will apologise and we will forgive. We will keep on hoping and keep on trusting. We will be the child in the midst of adults who know better than we do. That's fine. We will choose movement and service above structure and power every time. We will be generous and we will trust in God's generosity. We'll stay outward looking, both looking out to people who don't yet belong, and as we keep looking out to working with other organisations. We'll treasure our place on the edge, the amateurs who do what we do for love. We will take risks, we will look silly. We will laugh more than we are solemn. We will play. When we've succeeded in making a church for all ages, we'll look to see who else has been missed out and we'll be church for them too. We'll stay mobile, light of foot and light-hearted. We will always be the novice, learning on the hoof, wearing the L plates, the waiters, the waitresses, the washers-uppers. We'll be fluid, flexible, adaptable, but with Christ rock solid at the centre, with our values as guidelines, but everything else subject to change. We'll be messy, my friends. We will be very messy. So this is what we're trying to go ahead and do. We're trying to take the light of Christ into dark places in all sorts of ways. And I was thinking about what the future holds and thinking about, again, about the cross. And I've invited 3 of our team to just come and share one of the directions of the cross, which sums up, really, where we're going in the future. Thank you.
Well, we'll carry on growing numerically because we're looking at the cross pointing out far and wide. And we'll have more and more messy churches springing up in more places, and we'll all learn from and with those messy churches. We need to keep resourcing the hub of messy churches that are just beginning or just doing messy church and wanting to do just that really well. That means providing resources, supporting the regional coordinators, continuing to have someone to respond to the many queries, keeping social media alive and active, offering training both face-to-face and, God willing, online.
And we're looking at the cross pointing up to the inspiring breath of God. So we need to keep refreshing the old with the new. We need to keep on pioneering new projects to stay young. Messy prisons, messy vintage, messy church does science, urban estates. Who knows what else God will send our way?
And thirdly, we need to look down to our depths, our roots. Most significantly of all, as we look out from our 15-year standpoint, the time has come to move together from our confidence in the brand into finding out how deep we can go in it. BRF is passionate about discipleship, about going deeper with Jesus. The time has come to get serious about messy discipleship, and no longer to expect it to happen on its own, but to get purposeful about moving on together. It's why the theme of this conference is discipleship. It's why Claire Dalpra is speaking tomorrow about the research she's been doing into Messy Church and discipleship. It's why Andrew Roberts is speaking on Sunday about what discipleship can look like through a lens of holy habits. It's why all the workshop leaders are focusing on aspects of Messy Church that we can all take deeper, do better, be more enriched by. We're working with the United Reformed Church and 3 Church of England dioceses this year to push forward with ideas from the Messy Discipleship pilot, with Claire Dalpra's team advising us along the way. So this conference is a kickstart for working out together how we best help the teams and families we've been blessed with to live life in all its fullness as they and we walk with Jesus.
Thank you. How will our saga end? Bard Allison, could you read the final instalment?
Imagine the scene at the castle as all sorts of people responded to the invitation to come to the king's table. In they came, the babies in arms and the toddlers, the boisterous 8-year-olds, and the cool teenagers, the young adults, the middle-aged, the old, people who had never set foot in the castle before. You'll never guess what happened next.
What happens next? What do you think happens in the saga? Do they all live happily ever after? Is there a tragedy? Is there a nasty surprise around the corner? What do the courtiers do when they see all these people arriving? What do the kitchen staff do when they see all these people arriving? Will there be dragons, as the scullery maid asked? Just very quickly turn to the person sitting next to you. How do you see the saga ending? I'm going to pass on to Jane now, because we're just going to finish up this. We are going to finish up this particular start to the conference with a little bit of what's the word? Liturgy, sorry.
Messy liturgy.
Messy liturgy. Here we go. Would you like to, if you, no, stay sitting down. Stay sitting down, I think. Stay sitting down. Jane.
Okay, so we're going to have some liturgy on the screen now, and you can see in bold where you're going to be shouting. Okay, I want to hear loud shouts to join in with our messy liturgy. And then he says something else then. Because as we gather together this weekend, we really want to encourage each other. So the responses are on the screen. Are you ready? Lord, you've called us here from... The journey here has been... Thank you for calling each one of us on our messy journey. Thank you for the journey so far. Lord, we're feeling... Ooh. Thank you for the people, either side of us now, the stories they bring, and the gifts they are to us. Help us to make this weekend a wonderful one for them. Thank you for messy friends, old and new. Lord, what we want most from this weekend is... Thank you for giving us way more than we can ever imagine. Thank you for the wisdom waiting for us in our speakers, our workshop leaders, and everyone we meet. Thank you most of all for being here with us. Thank you for your friendly Son welcoming us with open arms. Thank you for your creative spirit knitting us together. Thank you for your joyful presence celebrating with us. Amen.